Hey there, Pokemon trainers. I'm Ash.
And I'm Nick.
And we're here today to sit down and talk a little bit about deck building, because that's, we do a lot of talk about meta decks. We've done a lot of, showing off the Tier 1 decks, the Tier 2 decks. And now we're just going to sit down and go about how do you build your own deck, what constitutes as meta deck, things of that sort.
Just kind of breaking it down a little for you.
So, first things first is, one of the first things I will harshly stand behind this is when you want to get into, start to, actually playing and everything, this is perhaps one of the best purchases you can make. This one in particular is it's a phenomenal resource as a whole. Comes with all your basic necessities, such as, your basic counter dice, rules and everything. Fun packs just to open, damage counters, all that, sleeves, energy, and it also comes with the pack of trainers, which is the biggest thing that's about this. And also, again, what makes this one in particular one of my favorites, the Crobat Vs that come with it.
Yeah, you're definitely going to see a lot of the cards coming out of this that you'll also see in some of the decks that we've built ourselves.
So like I said, Crobat V is a phenomenal resource that many of us use in decks, just because when you play it from your hand, it has the ability that you draw 6 cards until you have 6 cards in hand. So it's just a great way to refill your hand if you're running low, things like that. And then, comes with a lot of really great tools like Air Balloon we see often all the time. Cheryl sees plays every now and then. Boss's Order is also incredibly common. Yeah. Escape Ropes, Evolution Incense. I can just go through and explain all of these, but I'm just sitting here going through it myself, and I'm just like, yep. I use pretty much all of these in at least one deck or another.
Yeah, they really just looked at that's about 10 different trainers. They just looked at the 10 most played trainers and said, all right, you're just gonna play set of all of them.
Well, not a playset. You get 2 of. Yeah. So at least gets you started, just because a lot of them don't even use full playsets. There will be, of course, ones you use. Typically, a lot of people will use playsets of Marnies or playsets of Boss's Orders. So at the very least, gets you started on some of the good cards you can get. And we have today we have 2 of our favorite meta decks that we've looked into, and then also 2 of our own, I guess you could say they're funny decks. We just built them on the whim, and they play well, but they're not what you would constitute as meta.
Which one do you feel like cracking into first?
I know we talked about it a lot last time, so let's go ahead and grab the Sylveon Toolbox.
All right, Sylveon Toolbox. So,
Sylveon Toolbox is one of a fairly popular meta deck. A lot of what makes it so unique is it pretty much has a response to a lot of the major things you would run into. If somebody's running Dragapult, you have things like Galarian Moltres that you can use. Blaziken V, that's what makes the Sylveon Toolbox a toolbox, is because you can just sit there and swap through a bunch of different cards just to find the answer you are looking for. And Sylveon also is the star of the show because its base attack, or its main attack, Max Harmony, does more damage based on how many different types you have on your bench. So Sylveon in of itself is a great card, and when you get the right setup for it, it just becomes an absolute powerhouse.
So do you want to just break it down? So we've got the Sylveons, the star of the show, and the card that the deck's named after. The shell that I believe we just saw out of the Professor's Research. Quick Ball. I think Fan of Waters might be the first card we're playing that isn't in that toolkit.
Actually, it might be.
Oh.
Fan of Waves.
Yep, so yeah, Fan of Waves.
Oh, maybe it's
Orders, Karina's Focus. And then we got some of the Toolbox Pokemon.
Eldegoss is not something that you see terribly common now, but is still a fairly good card where when you play it, you can pick a supporter card from your discard pile and put it back into your hand. So if you just need to really quick grab a Boss's Orders or anything like that, Eldegoss is just a great way to quickly pick it up, back up, and use it again.
Yeah. Extra energy.
Of course, this deck isn't going to be like fully optimized. This is, I think we did a few small tweaks to it as we made it. So
It's also, it is a little, hasn't been updated off the most recent sets. The one, Blaziken V. See, the Resolve and Marnie, which more or less speak for themselves. I mean, we have shown in the past what Marnie does to people.
Marnie is a wonderful card, and pretty much any deck I see is running at least 2 or 3 of them, if not more.
The Sylveon V, mostly there for, well, VMAX.
But also, one of the great first things I would say when it comes to like building a deck is sometimes just looking at abilities alone. Again, Sylveon is a great example where you can search your deck for an item card, reveal it, and just put it in your hand. Which, you know, if you're looking for something really particular, Sylveon can grab it for you. Of course, it means your turn ends, but, you know.
The Oranguru, which...
Also, another one that it's used purely for its ability, where it grabs the top card of your deck and swaps it with a card from your hand.
And then there's the Crobat V. That kind of that's a quick ball and a great ball. That's a great ball. Ooh, an Urshifu V and V Max. Once again, I think mostly seeing play both for the Sylveon ability and also that it's just another type of Pokemon to deal with different types of decks. Running against something that's weak to fighting. There's your answer to that. Weak to fire. You see how it's the toolbox. Pollution Incense. We got a Raihan. I don't think I've shown him off yet.
Raihan came out in Evolving Skies, and it's perhaps one of the biggest trainers, I would say, that came out in Evolving Skies. Because while he only works when one of your Pokemon is knocked out, you can attach an energy from discard to one of your Pokemon and then draw, and then you can search your deck for any card. It's just a great resource to, you know, pick back up from whatever just disaster happened, unfortunately.
Obviously, the 2 copies of it's 2 copies of Towers of Water, just everything I believe in here for the most part is a Rapid Strike, so it's just good utility. Oop, another Remoraid. I do believe there's the Octillery.
Yep, and then you saw Octillery in our deck previews with the single and Rapid Strike, where Octillery can just pick up any Rapid Strike card that you need.
Yep. The Blaziken VMAX. Another Octillery. I believe we are coming to the end of, yeah, the final 2 cards are just an Air Balloon and a Tool Scrapper.
And then the rest is pretty much just energy from there on.
Energy or, you know, some additional copies that we've already seen once. So that's kind of probably the most meta of the meta decks we have right now.
I mean, of what we have, yes. It's not perhaps not the most popular right now, but it's our favorite. But as you can see, just from what we laid out itself, the deck tends to be a little less lenient on Pokemon and instead uses a lot more trainers to help get what you need or find the responses that you need. And you'll see that a lot of our decks are typically lean that way. Yeah. Trainers are perhaps the biggest resource to really give your decks that punch it needs. And when you start deck building, you'll probably, I would probably say start with just like a clean 20 across, 20 Pokemon, 20 trainers, 20 energy, just to get, you know, start getting an idea. When you get an idea of the deck, you can start fine-tuning it. Like, the Boltund deck I've been working on is running like 7 or 8 electric energy alone, and that's pretty much it in terms of energy.
Yeah, so definitely a recurring theme. You usually see the decks where they're playing maybe not even 10 energy a lot of the time, to where between they're just so efficient getting the energy or recycling that you can just stuff the deck full of powerful cards. What do you feel like moving on to next after Sylveon?
Let's go to one of our decks. Let's grab Cursola.
Yeah, my favorite.
So, literally, Cursola was the deck that I told Nick about, and he's just like, okay, I need to play this now. Yeah. And this is pretty much the one that got him to start really playing. Like, Cursola was something I ran into online, and I was just like, you know, that's actually kind of a funny idea. And so I just kind of, again, looking at what other people use, I got an idea from that, and then kind of built from there. Where Cursola's main thing is when it's in the active spot, whenever your opponent attaches an energy to one of their Pokemon from their hand, it does damage. And it also has supporting Pokemon, taking this one right off top, Arctozolt, which is your main support, which also says whenever an opponent attaches an energy card from their hand, puts 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. So it's just a way to like add a lot of damage and try and make it a little bit harder for your opponent to. They essentially have to use search methods to attach energy rather than outright attaching energies.
Yeah, you're definitely going to see a common theme with this one. I mean, once again, we see a lot of the trainers kind of across all these decks. Marnie, Boss's Orders. Here's a weird one, Sigilif.
Yeah. This is just a fun one where a lot of it's just based on how many damage counters are on your active Pokemon. So your opponent's active Pokemon. It's just a fun way to handle that. And then I think I was also looking at the ability when I had added it. If this Pokemon is in the active spot and damaged by an opponent's attack, even if knocked out, put 3 damage counters on the active Pokemon. So again, just a way to add few damage counters here and there.
Then Crushing Hammer, which in this deck, because you're looking to deny energy, it's a nice way of punishing, slowing them down, and also forcing them to add additional damage. Again, the Evolution Incense. This is in here obviously because Arctozolt, there's no other way of getting it out. Suspicious Food Tin is just a solid card for Psychic decks. I believe, yep.
You have to discard Psychic energy to use it, but it just, a heal, so it's fairly useful as a whole.
Yeah. Again, Rugged Helmet. Again, just kind of there for more punishment. Whenever it takes damage, just adds more counters.
Nope, that one's actually removing energy.
Oh, gotcha.
No, that's Rocket Helmet.
Right, yes. So Push Hammer, yet again, Crobat V. Again, it's just good. The Fog Crystal, which again, for Psychic decks, you're either getting an energy or a basic Psychic Pokemon, so Cursola V. Blue Old Cemetery. Whenever players attaching energy that's not Psychic, more damage counters. Again, so you're seeing the common theme here. A lot of counters for energy. Marnie, Horror Energy. This is the one that I was confusing, Rocky Helmet with.
I think so.
Yeah, where it's blah blah blah. Whenever it's in the active spot and takes damage, it adds another 2 counters. There we go.
But yes, It's, as you can see, this deck is all about doing small damage, but damage that adds up over time, ultimately.
Yeah. Especially if you can have a good start where you might have like the active Cemetery, 2 or 3 Arctozolt and a Cursola. It turns into, please put an energy on, I dare you.
Yep. Like, again, not the best, but we had fun building it, and, we could probably fine-tune it from here on. But
it's really funny watching people playing it online and watching people, like, awkwardly start their Pokemon and go, wait, if I put this on, it just dies? But I need 3 energy, how do I do this? I'm like, you don't. You concede. Alright, so we looked at one of the silly decks. Do you want to go to the second of the meta that we have put together?
I was going to say we stop for a moment, just kind of explain how we go about just actually building decks themselves.
Gotcha.
Because, there's, oh goodness, I probably want to say there's well over 1,000 cards in Standard alone, and this is just one format. You get into Expanded and you're looking at probably 5,000, if not more. So how do you go about finding what cards are good and what cards aren't? Because, there's a lot. And, of course, you're limited by what you have and what you can get. But there's just so many things you can keep in mind that it can seem overwhelming at first when you're trying to decide what you want to do. And so one of the first things I would always recommend is just finding one card in particular that you just really like. For me, actually now we can grab one of the silly decks.
Yes, okay.
If you just want to grab my Slowking.
Sure thing.
For me, I saw Slowking V, and I was just, or VMAX, and I was just like, that's actually kind of cool that you're putting 12 damage counters on. Sure, it takes a little bit, it's a little harder to get this kind of damage, or it takes longer for the damage to come out and everything, because the base attack is only 10 itself. But you play this in turn, you have supporters that will increase how many damage counters it is, ways that you can't your opponents can't switch Pokemon, things like that. But yeah, bases always look at kind of get an idea of what you want to do. Like I knew I wanted to just do a poison deck for one, and so I'm just like, okay, so what's good support for poison? I went through, I found one of my favorites, which was Toxicroak, normal Toxicroak, which has the ability that it adds additional damage counters based on poison. If I can find them in here.
Off topic for about 1 second. When we go home, you're buying another Galarian Slowking V because that annoys me greatly to look at.
No? Okay, here we go. So yeah, it has the ability that you would put 2 more damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon during Pokemon checkup. So, again, it's just a small thing of damage, but it adds up. And then there's also support, because Slowking V and VMAX are single strike. You can attach the single strike energy to it to do additional damage. There's Karen's Conviction, which makes your single strike Pokemon do more damage based on prices, I believe. Just, things like that. You just kind of like start looking at, you take one thing and then just kind of expand from there. It's probably like one of the best ways I build a deck.
Yeah, just kind of piecing it out so people can kind of see what the deck looks like. So then if you want to, you can kind of explain what your thought process behind these cards are, because this is your deck that you kind of built from the ground up.
Mm-hmm. And I won't say I entirely took 100% credit for it, because, again, I'm one of those that I'll see something used and I'm just like, that's really cool. I think I can change it up a little bit and, fine-tune it to my own style, which is something I love doing. Like, literally when I first got it back into, like, competitive Pokemon and learning how to play all over again, I essentially started with a recent tournament. It was before Standard rotation, when Team Up and all those were still in Standard. It was a Pikachu Zekrom GX tag team deck that I was just like, this is so cool. I didn't realize that you can do so many things with this. And literally from there, I just got onto Pokemon Online, sat down, tried to make the deck as best as I could remember it. Again, making what I thought would be good changes to it. And, it made a really solid deck. So don't be afraid to look to advice online, what other people are doing, and, change it to fit your style.
Mm-hmm. Quickly, I believe I'm getting towards the end of it. Some more Karens. Yep, Karen. I'm just gonna put the basics below there. Evolution for ease of display.
Yeah. So now with this like fully laid out, you can see that this is a fairly single strike oriented deck. Single strike roar to get those energy back out. You have a different response if you just need a better attack than the slow and steady. Again, support for poison to have it do more. Ways of finding the cards you need, like Piers to get either Houndoom or more Slowkings. Moltres to help with dark energy. Like, again, there's probably better ways to handle this deck, ultimately. But this is a fairly fun deck, and it's, kind of throws people for a loop because they don't know what to expect.
It's also very much uniquely yours.
Especially with that one single Slowking.
Yes. Or the single foil hiding energy.
But yeah, there's oodles and oodles of ways to build decks, but like my big two for me is just A, finding a card I like and want to work with, or B, looking to what other people are doing or playing. Like that, like I said, that's how I got back into competitive battling and just learning the competitive scene as a whole.
Also, like outside of like the toolbox style decks, also a lot of the decks that I've encountered there's definitely like a core Pokemon or two that they build the entire deck around, and then it's just a supporter package for that one or two Pokemon. Whereas with the part of the reason why the toolbox decks are so good is that it's a toolbox. The idea is you want to have answers to everything. You don't have your single centralized Pokemon you have to worry about where, oh, I'm playing against a bad matchup, so now I'm gonna have it's up about that style of decks. Just, hey, I have X, Y, Z answers for everything you play. Haha.
Yeah, and ultimately, there's not going to be one end-all deck. Like, that, it can't happen just because people will find ways to respond to said deck. Like, again, going back off of our previous video, with Mew V, there's a lot of people that are throwing Moltres back into their decks to help respond to that Mew V because of that weakness to darkness. Now, another thing I would also recommend keeping in mind when building decks is look at what type you're dealing with, because you don't want to go too far out where you have 5 different types, barring Sylveon, because it works that way. But you typically want to stick to like 1, 2, maybe 3 different types at most, unless they're more for supporter cards. An example, Snorlax, Oranguru, things like that.
I guess I'll say, like, even for the Corsola deck, I can find it real fast. Like, you're playing, obviously, the Psychic, Corsola, Electric. Although these really don't get used. They're more just, they sit on your bench. Crobat, again, same thing where you don't really play the Crobat. It's mostly there for that lovely little ability. So the core of the deck are the Psychic types, so you can see that all the energy in the deck is going to be Psychic energy because you're not using the other Pokemon types.
Because when you start getting into multiple types that you want to use for like actual battling, you start running into how are you going to get X, Y, Z energy or things like that, and it just kind of makes logistics kind of horrifying. So, I don't know. How do you go about building decks? Because
I do kind of what I'll say, where I'll usually pick like 1 or 2 Pokemon that I really like that I want to build around. Either they have an ability or they just have an attack that I think looks good. And then I have a habit where I'll look. There's a couple of websites where it's a Pokemon card database, and I'll essentially just go through the database and kind of see like, okay, this attack does, I don't know, let's say 300 damage, but I have to detach all the energy. So now I need to find a way to either start recycling energy or to be able to keep filtering it out effectively to continuously be able to use this attack each turn. And just kind of go from there. I'm like, okay, I've got my core attack Pokemon. I've got, let's say, 10 ways to keep recycling my energy. Now I want to start looking into things like supporters to either accelerate the deck because I'm looking for that one, big hitter, either to search it out or ways to keep drawing cards, ways to shuffle things back into my deck a little easier and just kind of go from there where I just keep building, I take my concept, build off of that, and then just kind of build the whole deck up from there, play test it, and go, okay, my big hitter's good. It's doing its job, it's knocking things out, but after turn 3, I run out of energy. So now I have to put some more energy in, or okay, what if I add this supporter in because that'll let me shuffle 4 fighter energy back in my deck, and just kind of build like that. That's my preferred style. I've done that for every TCG I've ever played, where I'll pick something I like and kind of try to structure the whole deck around it. Cough, cough, counterspell.
Yeah, there's, and there's also just a multitude of ways of playing it, because you can play, the fast game where, like, the single strike deck where you just get that one incredibly heavy hitter and knock everything out as quickly as possible. You can play the slower game where you have, again, Sylveon Toolbox, where you have a response for everything. You can kind of build things up as you need it. Like, there's still plenty of play styles and ways to play.
Yeah. There's definitely also a lot of checks and balances just in the typing system where anytime a deck looks too good, you just play the counter to it. Oh, I keep running into single strike Urshifu online. I'm going to play a Psychic type deck now because, well, they're going to have trouble with that one.
And then once you realize, hey, there's a lot of Psychic decks here, you switch over to Dark type because more often than not, Psychic types are weak to darkness. And that kind of brings up my other point when it comes to when you're looking at one type, always keep in mind weaknesses and resistances, because that can very much make or break a deck. Because I think with the Cursola deck, I think everything is weak to dark, essentially. Yeah. So you're just sitting there, if you end up getting, unfortunately, matched up with an Umbreon VMAX, you just kind of go, well, good game, and, have to concede right there, because you have no way to handle it.
Yeah, in my limited time playing Cursola against specifically that deck, my game plan was basically bench as many Arc Souls as I can as fast as possible, get an Old Cemetery down, and just really, really hope that, like, they're having difficulty with their energy the first couple of turns, because then if I can't start stacking the counters immediately, I'm out of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know.
There is, our final kind of meta deck. It's another one of mine because I'm a filthy Psychic player and I like these decks. Good old Dragapult VMAX.
Dragapult has the wonderful base attack of just doing 60, but it goes through any abilities your opponent may have. One popular deck I've run online is Decidueye. Fairly simple deck, but it's a lot of fun for me because all these decks tend to be V and VMAX heavy. They don't have any way to respond to Decidueye, which says it can't take any damage from V or VMAX Pokemon. So this is like one of the hard counters to it, just because it goes through that ability and still does that 60 damage.
Quickly flipping through, for the most part, every card so far, Old Cemetery, Cheryl, Claris, which we've already talked about these, you've seen them. Again, a lot of the supporters are very similar across the board because they're just good. Mm-hmm. Then, like, one we haven't shown off yet, Cresselia. Mm-hmm. Just a good functional card. Get some energy for your Pokemon. And then also, with the second attack, blah, blah, total of 120 damage for the cost of 2, essentially.
Mm-hmm. But Cresselia, if you're running like a Psychic deck, Cresselia is an absolute go-to because, and it's also really nice because it just says you want to go second rather than first. Mm-hmm. A lot of people will say that whoever goes first kind of determines its outcome, and Cresselia kind of says no to that because instead of just finding the 1 energy, it'll find 3 energy, and it's that can get Dragapult VMAX ready to go already. Mm-hmm.
And then kind of the final little funny one about this one is it's got the Inteleon package in it, just Shady Dealings Inteleons for the supporters. But the entire rest of this deck is Trainers and Energy. Mm-hmm. This is all the Pokemon the deck plays.
And yeah, this will be a fairly common theme when you see meta decks like this. Mm-hmm. You can see just, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 Pokemon. Yeah. You can see decks that have even less Pokemon.
Like I was talking about my style deck, where I'll pick like a builder on Pokemon Dragapult V. The entire deck is now built around Dragapult V. Mm-hmm. You're looking; it's all ways of getting to your Dragapult Vs, getting the energy out of them as fast as possible, and just beating. Because going through the blah. Marnie, Quick Ball, Tool Jammer, Path to the Peak, Fan of Waves, Fog Crystal, Horror Energies, Old Cemetery, Cheryl, Clara, Rhyhans. Everything to just get and beat. I love this deck.
It is a fun one.
As you can tell, also because it's the only one that I bought the fancy ones for. Sadly, no fancy Dragapult Vs, but that's mostly because I refused to gamble on getting the right one again after my last TCG player incident.
So, what were you going to say?
I was saying, to credit the seller, he apologized. It was an honest mistake. Just a little bitter about that. I don't need oversized cards unless I can build an entire deck out of them, and I'll get someone to allow me to play in a tournament. Which, in that case, let me know what tournaments are allowing oversized decks because I'll play one.
So, as you see, we brought 2 of our favorite meta decks and then 2 of our own abominations. I think abominations is probably the best way to put those. Like, sure, you can absolutely play meta until the day you die. There's nothing wrong with meta, especially because the meta is ever changing. You can build it, and then like a week later, there can be like 10 different other cards. People are just like, nope, these are better for this deck than the ones you had previously, and it just keeps changing. And that's what makes Pokemon fun and unique.
I mean,
in my opinion.
I mean, I think going just from like Fusion Strike, went from Sylveon VMAX being like the top meta deck, and now I believe it's the Mew deck is currently now considered the best meta deck, where just between sets you see an entirely new like king of decks pop up.
Or sometimes you even see old ones come back.
Yep.
Like, I believe right when Evolving Skies dropped, Dragapult VMAX came back for a while, and it was the go-to deck. And then after that, people started leaning back towards Rapid and Single Strike Urshifu, and then from there, like, Sylveon Toolbox came to be, and it's just like, it's constantly changing, and that's why it's also fun just to not settle for just one deck. If you can have multiple decks ready to go, if not just for fun, then different things you can play just in case.
Also, just don't be like us though, because if you were keeping track, 3 of the 4 decks were the same type. It's a little rough when we sit down and someone's playing dark, because 75% chance we're getting stomped.
I mean, my deck's fine.
Not quite you. Show off.
But
although I think to finish this out though, you do get some packs in the Chulka. Thank you. I was making that name. Let's crack into those. See if we get anything fun before we.
One of each.
One of each. Never know. Maybe we'll get something that's, we just quickly sneak in for the next game. Maybe I'll get a shiny Dragapult. It's not in any of these sets, no, but maybe I'll get one. Just the world's weirdest mispack. I believe I did that right. Yes, I did. All right. Hey, old Sanitary. Impact Energy, Porygon 2, Aeron, Ralts, Venipede, Bounsweet, Lapras, Frostlass, and a Glade.
Whereas I got Crabominable, Ladian, Peonia, Grookey, Mareep, Rockruff, Swirlix, Lapras, also Frostlass, and Volcarona. Did we both have Frostlass reverse foils? Yeah?
Yes.
That's kind of funny.
You get the energy out of here. I got Swoobet, Drone Rotom, Cramorant, Joltik, Chatot, Charmander, Puccina, Mudbray, Barraskewda, and a Shiftry.
And for me, I got Memory Capsule, Loudred, Pinchurin, Weedle, Wailmer, Sandile, Riolu, Ferroseed, Swellow, and Alcremie.
Good. I think that finishes us out for today. Hopefully we'll have some, Brilliant Stars?
We still have a while to go on Brilliant Stars. I know some places will be starting pre-orders come February, but it doesn't drop until the end of February. And is it February yet? I'm excited for this new set. I'm excited to see V-Star, even though we're only getting 4 in the first set. I'm excited to see how this continues to change the meta, or if it even does. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get at least see some spoilers coming up in the future. Look through those, see if there's anything that catches our eye.
But I think for now, we'll go ahead and sign off. So as always, we'll catch you next time.